know, after a week you'd think I'd be able to talk about Berlin without crying. You thought wrong. I don't know how many of you remember my Shiva recap and review. If you did, you would know that I had 4 pages of bullet-pointed guidelines. Well, I have 4 pages again, except this time they're in paragraph 4. Before I get into the life-ruining elements of this episode, I have to tell you how much I love it. I don't think there will ever be words to express how much I love this episode. Definitely an all-time favorite right off the bat. And I actually woke up the next morning and thought it was a dream. I did not believe that this episode existed. I had to stop and be like, wait a minute, this actually happened. And if that's not the sign of a really amazing episode, whether you liked it or not, I don't know what is. So with that, let's begin. So let's start off with the whole rogue Mossad officer assassination thing. Basically, Mossad knew that one of their own people had been assisting Bodner, and then they went in and took care of it themselves, ba-bang bang. Then basically, Mossad sent the body back to NCIS to have it investigated like it was a murder, but really they were the ones who did it, and it was all an attempt to sidetrack them so they wouldn't know what was going on with Bodner. And it was a subplot that I guess I didn't really pay that much attention to the first time. I had to watch it 5 times to really understand what was going on, and it's not that it was bad, I just think I was more focused on the other aspects, as I'm sure you can imagine. Was this even the subplot, or was Berlin the subplot, or were they just kind of co-plots? What was going on with that? A side note, there's something fishy happening at Mossad these days, because we've gotten like 2 or 3 bad apples in a row now. And this wouldn't be such a bad thing if one of them wasn't the future director of an entire agency that also turned out to be a psychotic murderer. So that's kind of a thing that I would watch out for. But on the other hand, this storyline gives us a pretty good impression of our new Mossad director, Orli Elbaz. And I cannot tell if I absolutely really like or despise this woman with all of my being. First time I watched it, all I could think about was how much I hated this woman. And then the more I watched it, the more I began to like the complexities of her character. Now, do I like her as a person? No, probably not. I do like how layered and the depth her character has. I think it's such an amazing character that they have created here, and her and Ziva are amazing together. The chemistry between them is amazing, and I think it just gives such a good look into who Ziva is and who this character is, and it just adds such a nice layer to Ziva's character that we didn't really see before. We knew it existed, we did not really get a good look at it, and this gives us that look. From the first meeting, you could tell something was wrong, and you just gotta feel terrible for Ziva, because here's this woman that tore their family apart, and you probably never want to see her again, and then now she's here, replacing her father, and it's like, you just have to feel so bad for her. And she looks like she's about to have a breakdown. She looks like she's had it up to here with everything that's ever existed. And then she storms out, and then I just feel so awful for her and her life. There's one comment that Orli makes that I really don't know what to make of. Basically, she's talking about Ziva and how her independence lights up the room, and you know, she's been kind of sculpted that way, and Gibbs is like, no, she came to me that way. And I don't know if it was a genuine comment on Orli's behalf, or if me and Gibbs are just taking it the wrong way. Because I'm sensing some undertones, but I don't know if it's just because I'm really biased and I don't know what to think of her yet. So I think it's way too early to tell whether or not this character is good or bad, or what exactly her personality is. I think we get a little bit of both, so that's why I'm kind of on the fence. As far as my other comments on Orli, I like her because she's so complex, but sometimes I just want to head slap her into next week. So, I don't know. I also feel really sympathetic for her because I'm not sure what's exactly going on with the whole Eli backstory. You know, did she love him? Did she not? Ziva kind of makes that realization in the scene we will not mention until we absolutely have to. But I think there may be more than what we're seeing. Thing is, Ziva's always thought that Orli was sleeping with Eli just so she could be on top. Oh my god. So Ziva's always thought that Orli had the affair with Eli so she could further her career. And now she's realizing that that might not have been true, that she might have had sincere, real feelings for Eli. And so that's why I kind of feel sympathetic for her right now. I don't think I hate her yet. We are also entering the beginning of the end, and by that I mean the season 10 finale arc with their legal problems and the witch hunt that occurs, because we see that Vance has McGee tapping into Mossad's database. He's actually hacking, and then Vance is like, you know, I'll take the blame for this. Everyone's like, yeah, whatever, because, you know, we've hacked into every single government agency like 25 times. And then Orli makes a comment where she's like, I'd like to see your paperwork that's allowing you to do this. And they kind of ignore her, but that is a very strong sign that something's not good. So I think we have definitely entered the beginning of the end, and it's only going to get more intense with the remaining episodes, so I'm kind of terrified. I don't know how far they're going to take it, or I mean, are they going to take it to court? See, they very well could, because they've done some really illegal things, so I would not be completely shocked if they were like, we're hauling your butt to court. But then again, I wouldn't be surprised if they were like, we're not hauling your butt to court because you're the NCIS team and you magically know how to get out of everything. The flashbacks were perfection. Can I just... Ben Morrison, who plays young Eli, is absolutely perfect. His voice is dead on. If he didn't look so much like Eli, I would have think they hired him solely for his voice and the way he mastered Eli's dialect and his accent and the way he speaks. Everything is so perfect. They could not have possibly cast a better young Eli. Such perfect acting. He nailed it. I love Gabby Cosio. She's back as the young Ziva. And we also get to meet Rivka. We did not see as much Rivka as I hoped we would see, but that's alright. We still got to meet her. And the Ziva flashbacks tore me apart. They literally dug into the depths of my soul and destroyed me. Because not only do we see that she has this traumatic adulthood, but she had this traumatic childhood too. And I just want to hug her. I want to pull her into a big bear hug and be like, can I hold you forever? Because, she needs someone. She needs someone, and I'm getting to that someone, I promise. I'm getting the other things out of the way first before I go on my mile-long rant discussion thing. I did like the Yaniv twist. I was not expecting that. I thought it was a nice touch, and I liked the parallels they put in between him and Ziva. Another very strong dynamic they have going for them, and it's a very strong point that they bring up. Where do we draw the line between wrong and right in this situation? And they just bring up such an interesting question, and I really want to see them further that. Is that all? Can I talk? Can I begin talking about the thing? Can I begin talking about all the things? Oh, I think I can. Let's start with the plane. There was so much more than I expected. We get the flashback, and Ziva willingly shares with him what was going on in her mind, which we do not see often. And Tony is respecting her Bodner boundaries. One thing that bugged me is that we did not get to see McGee and Denozo work it out. Obviously things are pretty rough between them still, and I had originally assumed we were going to work it out here, but now I'm gonna take a wild guess and gonna say we are gonna have to wait a few more episodes to work this one out. I did very much enjoy that scene. It was so nice, and there was some eye lookings, but that's just the beginning. We haven't gotten anywhere yet. We get the scene with Adam, which I loved. Denozo is so jealous. It's not even hidden. It's clear as day in everything he does when Adam is in the room. The face he makes when Ziva says, why don't you just ask Adam out on a date, or whatever he says, it's... I don't think Adam's the one Tony wants to ask out on the date here, Ziva. putting that out there. He also calls her ma'am. No one calls Ziva ma'am except Tony. Cha-ching. Loving it. The bedroom scene, the hotel scene, was so different than what I expected. We get the scene where oh my god, we get every undercovers reference we possibly can, and you cannot just throw that in an unsuspecting crowd and expect us to deal with that like normal people. We got sweet cheeks, we got her talking in French, they remember things, oh my god! She hangs up his clothes because he's her man, and she gives quite the loaded comment. Everything about that was so nicely done. That portion of the scene, perfect. It was the humor, it was the seductish, that's not even a word. That was the seductive part of the scene, and it made my heart, She crawls into bed with him. She doesn't even pretend like she wants to be alone. She totally just gives in and she crawls into bed with him, and it's so perfect and so intimate and so deep. And they talk about things, and it's very similar to when they were in the elevator in Swan Song. That scene, definitely perfect. Not what I was expecting, but I loved it anyway. Oh, and he was smiling at her. He was not smiling at a wall. I repeat, he was smiling at Ziva, not a wall. Probably the one theory I will ever get correct. That's really sad. The dancing scene. This scene was so much more than I ever wanted or ever expected to get, and I am so grateful for its existence. It could not have been done more perfectly than it was. I knew they were going to be undercover. I expected that. And then, you know, they walked in, we got the Bond reference, and now I'm ruined one of the most popular movie references of all time. Now whenever I hear it, I'm gonna think of Tony and Ziva in Berlin. Fabulous, you ruined me. So we get them in the bar, club, fancy thing, whatever that was. And, you know, they're undercover, and then I kind of assumed, like, oh, you know, it's all gonna be undercover, whatever, they're still dancing, I love it. The way she just clings to him when he says, you know, just pretend like you're with me. She just willingly melts into his arms, and she feels so protected there. If the looks in Chasing Ghosts were loud, then these looks are deafening. That look she gives him was a look of pure love, and you will not be able to convince me otherwise. Like, did you see that? And she kept staring at his lips. I was like 90% sure they were gonna kiss, and I was trying to prepare myself, and I was very overwhelmed. Take us to the flashback, and just when I thought things couldn't get any better, you know, there's young Ziva and young Eli dancing. He says, "One day you will dance with the man who deserves your love." And I couldn't hear the rest of the scene because I was screaming too loud. Are we even gonna discuss how huge that scene was? The word love was mentioned in a Tony and Ziva scene in relation to them together. And that was the moment where it kind of clicked for her that she is in love with this man, and that's so big. Like, that was certainly not what I was expecting out of this scene at all. I was expecting, you know, a nice sweet little dance, but we got Ziva realizing she is in love with Tony, which is more than I ever could have asked for. Oh no, then we are coming to the scene. The scene of all scenes. When they said they were going to give us, you know, this shocking last 30 seconds, I did not know what to expect. I didn't think it was that big of a deal. I was just expecting something to brush off, you know, enjoy the rest of the episode, brush off the ending. That's not what happened. So they're in the car. She pulls out the ring. I don't even know if it was a wedding ring, but she holds it up to her ring finger. And then Tony's like, "That looks good on you." Just like the way he said she looked good in the maternity shirt. Like, Tony, you domestic fellow you. And then Ziva willingly opens up to Tony. He didn't even ask. He didn't pry. He didn't anything. She felt like she could trust him and open up to him. And that's so important. That's so amazing because she does not do that. She's saying, you know, Orli made me who I am. Tony DiNozzo grabs her hand. He makes the move. He grabs her hand and he's like, "I better catch her before she leaves so I can thank her." And then Ziva does not flinch. Ziva does not look away. Ziva does not go, "What are you doing?" Ziva intertwines the fingers. Ziva initiates the intertwining motion. They just smile at each other and they give each other these incredible looks, and it's unbelievable. It's amazing. It's beautiful. We are so close to canon and it's so lovely. And then all of a sudden Satan bursts out of hell in his green SUV and devours the car, devours the moment, and devours any last remaining bit of emotional stability I had. We are like, canon? Canon? Nope, here's a car crash. Sorry, your consolation prize is death. The worst part is, he tries to hold her hand afterwards and he can't because he's bleeding to death. He was just in this fatal car crash. Like, what are you doing? Please hold hands. Composure. Composure is important. That was like the car crash of the ages. They were like everywhere all at once. I'm surprised their limbs are still intact. I hope their limbs are still intact. The second I saw the car coming, I screamed. I was screaming. I started sobbing. I threw myself to the floor and screamed and sobbed. I was like, no! You guys would have been terrified. Him calling her name as his dying breaths were escaping his lungs and his final thoughts. I just realized a reference to Canary. Oh my god. You guys, that's like in Canary when they think they're dying, like their dying moments, and they look at each other. And then we get this. Oh my god, I just realized that. Oh my god. That makes everything so much worse because we kind of had a hint. Wow. Someone better gift that now. That scene was so intense, but it was so amazing, and I'm so curious to see how they're going to recover from the intertwining. Such a perfect episode. I cannot even express how much I loved it. And then they threw in the little Ziva with the children thing and how Tony keeps her grounded when she's on this, you know, rampage. And everything about this. They added every possible amazing aspect they could. I loved it. I loved all the characters they introduced, and I loved how they did Tony and Ziva's relationship. And there will never be words to express how much I love this episode. I love NCIS, and this episode is just such a phenomenal explanation because everything about it, it's so nicely crafted and all the elements are just perfectly thrown in to the right amount. I have nothing more to say. I just love this episode. I love NCIS, and this episode was just a perfect example of a reason why. So please recover safely from Berlin. Deep breath. Get ready for revenge. It's gonna be intense.